What's up guys, this is ScherBR talking, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, let's make a full review out of the GLEX banner that brings Melissa, Witch Daughter, and Bertrand. Sorry for the delay, I actually made a super preview because I had to deal with some real life stuff and then my PC had some problems, so we're getting back to this topic because I know some people will be skipping to current banners and they may decide to summon on the GLEX one because it should actually offer much more value. Melissa is a buffer with very good sustain, Witch Daughter is another buffer with a very interesting mechanic that can give speed to allies, and Bertrand is a counter unit with some very good damage and sustain as well. Let's start with Melissa. She has an interesting design with a focus on 3 different status, that being agility, intelligence, and will. Well, high agility means she's going to buff before boss or even allies, intelligence means she can do damage when she wants, and goodwill allows her to stat herself against debuffs, ailments, and magical attacks. Her endurance suffers a little, being only 58%, but she has other ways to protect herself. Love and charisma are good values, that means that she will self-heal and heal others with good values. I really like her status distribution is well-rounded. From passives, we have Elemental Heal 2. On the end of a turn, she recovers HP by around 220. On odd turns, that means 1, 3, 5 and beyond, she recovers 2 BP. You could say that she's essentially a 4 BP per turn character. And on even turns, that being 2, 4, 6 and beyond, she will buff her agility, intelligence, and will by 50%. Hence why she has the same values for all these 3 status. That's something important and will allow her to reduce magical damage, chance of being debuffed, and afflicted with ailments even further. And your agility means she will buff before your allies attack, your damage, buff before the enemy attack, resist magical attacks. Then the second passive is called Solid Defense. On the start of a turn, she grants herself a damage block that lasts 1 turn and will block damage for 1 time. So it does not stack, and if you pass this turn, it will not have 2 stacks. But in that particular turn, she would negate first hit. That's very nice. This is something that you find in banks. Well, you could find that in Matriarch GLEX style. It's the same passive. Besides that, she still stacks defense up 5 times, decreasing damage taken by 10% each time. So 5 stacks of 10%, exactly 41% reduction in damage when you consider everything in the end. You may start with only 1 defense up, but eventually she becomes super resistant with just this passive. The third one is called Intrinsic Step 4. When attacking with states, she gets 20% damage increase. That's her only damage increase passive, but well, she starts turn 1 buffing intelligence, so she can get some good damage on turn 1 and 3. Then, if you were attacked by an attack that will cause resist, she reduces damage taken by 40%, and you also have 37% chance to evade that particular attack. So this is something nice that we find in some recent characters, but they are overusing this. I explained it on a recent video that you can achieve perfect resistance against almost all elements by use of Proof or Tower and the right equipment. But if you have too many characters in the party with the same type of passive, it may be hard to equip them all. And depends on the fight. If your boss attacks with too many elementals, it's gonna be hard. If your boss attacks with only 3 elementals, you can find right equipment to equip most characters with ease. But something needs to be considered. Even if she does not trigger this resist, she still has 41% damage reduction by turn 5. And she can actually resist a lot. She also self-heals. So, a very defensive healer and buffer in my opinion. Now, for skills, we have Cure Water. This is a 1 BP skill that has the power 12 mod. Well, it's not for the damage. She will self-heal around 1.2 thousand with Cure Water. That's something nice because you are desperate and she's close to dying. You can use this skill and, well, she has very high agility. She's probably gonna protect herself without spending too much BP. You still save a lot in that turn. The second skill is called Elegant Prayers. For 5 BP, you have a support skill that buffs all surviving allies, agility, intelligence, will, and charisma by up to 30% on max rank. But on rank 1 is only 20%. For all we know, you have to manually level this up to reach the max potential. This is interesting because this 4 status in a single skill, it's not found anywhere else. It's pretty similar to something that we'll find in the next version of Muse that becomes a meta character. She buffs STR, Intelligence, Will, and Love. Well, Will is present in both characters. Love and Charisma are pretty similar. They will help with all sorts of healing, but Charisma will help you with the Charm status. And she buffs STR and Intelligence, while our version buffs Agility and Intelligence. So, what's the difference here? Muse can be used for squads that are based on STR as well, while Melissa is exactly made for mage builds, because Agility plus Intelligence increases accuracy of spellcasters. Intelligence increases the damage of mages. Mages already have high will. We are buffing it even further. Charisma will heal much better. You can still use martial artists as well, because you get at least half of what you need to increase the full damage potential. So she can be used with Silver, for example, a very strong damage dealer in current game. When thinking about martial artists, both will achieve similar results. You are buffing only Agility with Melissa, and you are buffing only STR with Muse. But they don't match the buff potential of Matriarch, Peon of Victory, that buffs both STR and Agility. But in this case, Peon of Victory is used against bosses that attack with physical attacks, since you are also buffing Endurance. You are using characters against bosses that use magical attacks. You are better off using Peon of Peace, or Elegant Prayers, or in the future, this version of Muse. These are primary buffers. Primary buffers are those that can buff every single turn. Well, Matriarch, newest style, will never run out of BP when she's buffing. But in the case of Melissa, and even Muse, you use 5 BP and you get 4 BP per turn. Means that may eventually run out of BP here and there, but that doesn't change much. This was how the original versions of Matriarch operated. So you can still use a secondary buffer like the Witch's Daughter in the current banner, or some others like Narwhal's Daughter and other characters that have similar effects like the UniverSe use as well. So far in the game, buffers are the top class that you can find, because they are pretty unique. Not only that, buffing status is some of the best strategies in the game, because not many bosses will remove your buffs. They hardly have this type of thing. And you can just stack status to like unachievable levels. 450% is the max value that you can achieve, so you can keep buffing every turn to reach very high values. And buffing will allow you to resist against ailments, something that you find in many bosses, and debuffs as well. So, something very nice. And she is also interesting because, well, when you are pursuing Matriarch, you have to pursue multiple versions of Matriarch, because, well, when you have Peon of Victory, her style is pretty bad. When you have Peon of Peace, the style itself is not good as well. So you bring those inheritances in the newest versions of Matriarch in order for her to survive the challenges. Here we have the whole kit. The character that it's already defensive and can buff on the same style. So a cheap investment in my opinion. One only thing that needs to be considered is that although Melissa is more defensive than Muse, this buff here is more geared towards mages and martial artists, while Muse will cover more ground, because you can use STR based units and there are plenty of those as well. That means that she will cover a little more ground for damage dealers. When talking about mages, right now you can use the likes of the latest Rock Bouquet, Global X Rouge, and Global X Bertrand together with Melissa to achieve very good results. Now, let's move on. The third skill is called Water Lilies. For 9 BP, you have a fast attack that hits a row of foes with cold and pierce damage as power. That may not seem that strong. I don't think she's going to solo waves with ease unless it's story mode. But besides that, she grants all surviving allies Phantom for 1 turn. Phantom is a passive that was found in, well, the first version of Acelus, and that passive is, well, 25% chance to evade an enemy attack. This by itself is not something game-changing. 25% chance is unreliable, totally. But if you have a party that already have at least one passive with a chance to evade, like Melissa already has 37% chance to evade if she's resisting, and if all your characters already have a chance to evade, and then you apply a secondary chance with Phantom, this can save you in a desperate measure when you see that you have to take a nuke and you don't have anything else to protect the party. But I don't think this is anything that important, and it's more of a gimmick for those that like RNG. He does not need to use a skill. Like Matriarch, we just keep buffing all the time. At least you can still inherit some options from her past styles. In the current event, you can farm the S version of Melissa that gives you some interesting options. Like, we have Pure Barrier. It's a fast support skill with 4 BP, that means that she has this available in almost all time, and it grants a defense boost decreasing damage taken by 50% to one target only, and also a very small healing of around 220. This could be useful if you are bringing someone like, let's say, Frag Robin, and he's just taking 2 damage, and you know that he's not going to survive before he heals. Then you can use Pure Barrier to survive that turn and then use that delay healing. Then we have Sun Shower. This is a full AoE attack with cold and sun damage. She can use this almost all times, and it will recover HP of all surviving allies by around 220. Well, we're not caring too much about the damage, but this could be inherited into some very desperate situations where she can heal before the enemy attacks, and that little extra healing help, but it's not really important in my opinion. Then we have Jagged Ice Plus. This is a MVP AoE attack with a power in 35 mod. That's actually pretty high for the 10 BP cost, and she reaches 20 BP by turn 3. That means if you want to bring her for Final Island to kill AoE enemies in Wave 1 and Wave 3, just bring Jagged Ice as inheritance, and she's actually going to work pretty well. Then from her first premium style, we have inheritance like Revitalizing Water, a 4 BP heal that also buffs endurance and gives 1 BP to targets. That's nice, she's probably going to heal from 0 to max. That's also a desperate measure, you're not going to use this all the time, but in some hard challenges it can be interesting to use. He also has access to Marine Ball, but that's not really good, we already have better mortality down options, and with the UniverSe style we're better off buffing normally. Dragon's Blessing was interesting when she got released, but it's too costly for today's standards, but on JP, this got an amplified that's pretty recent. It becomes a 7 BP skill that gives defense boost. It may be amplified to medium like JP, so decreasing damage taken by 25%, healing and giving BP as well, but we'll see when we get this amplified. I don't think she needs inheritance right now from this style. Revitalizing Water is nice to have, but not mandatory anyway. And from her S style, you can already at least take advantage of Pure Barrier or Sun Shower in boss fights and Jagged Ice, and can be used on full potential right from the start. Hence why Melissa is a meta character, and I will give her an OP tier in our tier list. Yes, one to be alongside the likes of Rag Robin, Matriarch, Final Empress, and Chef Polka. A character that could be said to be a side grade to Matriarch, but can be used just as well. You can use those two together if you want to buff Will, and you reach such a high values that you will not have difficulty resisting ailments or magical attacks, so she can also be used as a secondary buffer just fine, or replace Matriarch in some strategies entirely. That means that she deserves the place that she's getting. The next character is Witch's Daughter, and she's also a mage. Her endurance is also kinda bad, 69, but she also has good defense capabilities. Agility, intelligence, and will are also a focus with intelligence a little higher. Love and charisma are good as well because she can also heal. For passives, we have Sweet Tooth. When attacked, damage taken will be reduced by 25%. Also, by the end of a turn, she gets 15 points of Overdrive Gouge. When activating an overdrive attack, she will also use this skill called Sweet Smell that we'll talk more about later. Second passive, Cure Favor. On the end of a turn, she has 25% chance to recover all surviving allies' HP, that should be around 220, and also give them 1 BP. That's nice, that's just kinda two passives from Night Token. Night Token has 37% chance to heal the party and 25% chance to give. It's getting both effects, but on 25%. Then there's Great Block Tension. Damage increases by 30% and damage taken is reduced by 25%. So you have 2 damage reduction passives by 25%, and she does not need to rely on resisting damage. That's actually pretty nice, because more of the recent characters are needing to resist damage and won't. So you can use normal equipment on her without any problem. For skills, we have Festival Food. That's a free skill, and its support gives 3 BP to a target and also gives them up to 15 points of overdrive gauge. On rank 1, it's only 10 points. You have to manually level this up to reach 15 points. So it should be interesting to do when we get the Seeker's Path event. And that's something that she can actually use on herself or in summon others. Well, let's think about that later. Second skill is Storm Blasting. 6 BP for a single target attack with a power that recovers the user's HP by around 1.2 thousand. I don't think this skill is that useful. It's just trying to imitate Melissa 1 BP skill, but with a much higher cost. Since she already has 2 damage reduction passives, well, she will not likely need to have a single target heal on herself. If we're using someone like Polka, for example, he's healing the party. So that skill is kinda useless most of the time. And the third one is called Sweet Smell. For 8 BP, you have a fast attack that hits a row of foes with double S power. Well, double S power with fast and 8 BP is already nice, right? Then she removes all debuffs that were applied to all surviving allies. And then she will buff all surviving allies' status by 25% on max rank. It starts on 15%, goes as high as 25, so you have to level this up, but this can be leveled up on auto, so not much of a problem. But when you look on this 8 BP for double S power attack, how far have we come? Just look on someone like the original version of Uni. Well, he had this attack called 360 Delta. That was double S power to a single target. Now we have an attack that is roll, wider range, it's also fast, will remove all debuffs from the party, will also buff everyone by 25%. So there's a lot of effects here. But the closest comparison in real is actually Narwhal's daughter, because she is a secondary buffer that we use a lot in the game because of her Water Festival that buffs all surviving allies also by 25%, but she has 2 additional effects. Defense Boost decreases damage taken by 50% to the party, stacks with other source of defense boost, and 1 stack off Guard Up. But she also gives all surviving allies 1 BP. So that means that in the end, Water Festival is only 8 BP cost, right? So they are similar on this regard. But with the recent event that we have to fight the Toad, this Toad debuffs our Love and Charisma so that we cannot heal. That's also something that happened with the past boss fight against Naga in World Tower. So you can use this sometimes in game changing, allow you to survive in boss fights that will debuff you via passive that could not be negated or resisted. And well, this is fast. That means that if you are fighting a boss and you use this on turn 1, you are already getting that nice will and endurance buffs to decrease damage taken right from the start, and also increase the damage from all your attackers by turn 1. Now we need to discuss Festival Food. Well, the idea of Festival Food is use on herself, because she already gets 15 points of overdrive gauge by the end of a turn. When she gets to overdrive, she can use Sweet Smell as a chase. Let's talk about what you want to do. want to reach overdrive with at least 8 BP because to attack, Festival Food will not trigger Sweet Smell. So when you are on overdrive, Sweet Smell, and then she will use another Sweet Smell because this is rank 1, 15% buff only. You are getting 40% total. That's really nice for all status. So in some fights, you open with Sweet Smell. By turn 2, you use Festival Food on herself so that you get BP in overdrive. And then by turn 3, depending on the number of attacks from your boss, will already be on overdrive. And then in that moment, you use Sweet Smell in overdrive to get 40% status buff. See, that's actually a very interesting mechanic to keep buffing the party and also negate strategies from bosses that try to debuff your status. If buff is all that you want, every time that you don't have 8 BP, you should be using Festival Food on herself. That's already very nice and something to be considered as one of the best secondary buffers in the game. She can outclass Narwhal's daughter in some situations because she's buffing more, so that can counter the lack of defense boost, right? But you are not giving 1 BP to the party. That's something that's a little different between both characters. But you can also use Festival Food for something else. You can actually double the utility of some characters. For example, one of the best characters in the game right now is Chef Polka. Well, by inheritance of Rag Robin's Rising, actually, Blade Phoenix. This is a 9 BP skill, right? Okay, has delay, but that's not the case. And Chef Polka has 4 BP per turn. And then you are giving B. What you have is total, you have 7. Gets in pretty close to 9, right? So there's another thing about Polka. Polka also gets BP when counters. So, depending on the situations, you are just getting Polka closer to healing every turn. Because you can bring people like Matriarch or even Melissa to increase the potential of the healing effects. So, that's a strategy that works pretty well. You could also do similar by chasing Liz instead of Polka. Well, the newest version of Liz has this skill called Karatu Water Wall. That's 9 BP as well. And it gives defense boost that decreases damage taken by 50%. It's the strongest damage reduction skill right now. So, you can try to give Liz more BP in order to use this skill more often. Both Liz and Polka also have a counter mechanic on overdrive where they counter with their skill number 3. So, you can also allow them to reach overdrive faster by giving them overdrive points, or choose to give this to other characters, like Time, for example. You can guarantee that Time will always reach overdrive by turn 2 by giving him more points, and that can kind of allow him to choose between Uncle Taco Toolbox and Call Rose more often, because he has some BP generation problems depending on the situations. So there is some utility. You can also just give that BP in overdrive for people like, well, Chooser is a character that benefits from more BP because he can lob at ejection and never try to use a normal attack, for example. Or you can try to give more BP to Silver, so that Silver will always attack with something like Vandalize Plus on every turn. Remember that this version of Silver has 6 BP per turn when she fully loads all of her chase attacks. Then, with 9, remember that Vandalize Plus, it's 10. That means that you're pretty close of getting Vandalize Plus every turn. So you can increase the potential of many different characters. You could even do something pretty interesting. Since Witch's Daughter kind of competes with Narwhal's daughter, what about not even competing? What about giving that overdrive and DP so that you can actually use Water Festival more times? That also works well. So she can buff party herself and also give, so that we have more Water Festival that gives back 1 BP party. That's an interesting option. Sometimes we may want to bring 3 buffers on the party, or you can just bring those 2 you want and remove Matriarch entirely. Well, it will depend. So that's a very interesting mechanic that can be used with Witch Daughter. Well, there are not many interesting inheritances, to be honest, because her skills are already very good. But from the first Witch Daughter style, there is Healing Breath that allows you to revive someone in a desperate situation. I think this is the best inheritance, to be honest. But you can also use Aerodyne's debuff if you don't have anyone else. Then from her S style, there is Dancing Leaves, plus that decreases damage taken by 50% and gives 15 points of Overdrive Gauge on rank max. You still have to manually level this up as well. You can use this, like I said, in Melissa review to protect Polka from dying before he heals the party, in some situations, for example. And her Dahao style has Heaven's Breeze that debuffs agility and dexterity, but again, there are other debuffers right now. She is much better used as a buffer herself. Because of all that she has to offer, I believe she deserves a triple S grade and is a very interesting character to have going in the future. The last character is Bertrand, and he is an interesting one. He has 90% for both Endurance and Will. That means that he actually wants to protect against both types. STR is 90% because he can use some sword skills from Inheritance, but he has a focus on Intelligence. 120% is the highest value right now in the game, and he still has 100% agility, so he's not that slow. 60% dexterity means nothing to him. You'll only use that skill on Inheritance. And, well, you should not even inherit sword skills with Bertrand. For passives in Element, when attacked, he buffs Intelligence by 20%. That's just like robbing Polka and Liz. Any type of attack, even if he evades, will buff his own Intelligence by 20%. And he also nullifies all attacks that have sun damage. That's not that common. I mean, Creator uses sun attacks, but most bosses don't use that type of element, but it's good to have. Also, when he's directly attacked, he's going to counter with a skill called Twin Goldfish, but I'll talk more about that later. Passive number 2 is called Clarity of Mind. Attack damage increases by 20% at all times, and when he lands an attack, he's going to recover his HP by around 200, and also his own BP by 1. And when he lands an attack or spell, he has a 37% chance to chase with Cure Fire. Another 37% chance to chase with Cure Water. You just saw Cure Water on Melissa. Cure Fire is just the same with a different element. Deep power attacks that have a healing of 1000 on average. So that can be pretty interesting. 2 chances to self-healing while still doing damage with Chase. Because he self-buffs Intelligence a lot, that means that he's going to do damage even with low-powered attacks. And the third passive is called High Protect Tension, increasing damage potential by another 20%, and when attack damage will be reduced by 30. So this is his only damage reduction passive, but it's good because he self-heals a lot, so you stay on full HP most of the time. Still deals with RNG, but I don't think that's much of a problem. Moving on to skills, we have Void. For 2 BP, you have a single target attack with deep power. It's heat and shadow damage, and buffs Intelligence by 25% on max level. Well, this skill by itself is not bad, because he recovers 4 BP per turn when he's attacking. So there's just one problem. I think that you actually want to save BP more often than using it. But depending on the situations, if he is only countering, it can work to stack his Intelligence even further. Skill number 2, Twin Goldfish. This is amazing. Well, it hits a column of foes with cold and heat damage. And it has critical damage against aquatics and fish. And it grants the user an attack boost that increases damage by 20%, lasts for 3 turns, and it does stack. And also defense boost of small, stack, that means 15%, and it lasts for 3 turns. So if you're planning to use him as a counter specialist, you open the fight with Twin Goldfish. You have to use him on a Rising Phoenix Axe formation, because that one also increases his Intelligence by 50%, Endurance and Will as well, and also has a very high chance to be attacked. But he does not count. Have to remember that. And then you use this skill, and you will hope for direct attacks in order to counter with Twin Goldfish again. But Twin Goldfish on rank 1 has some different values. The defense boost will be still 15%, but the attack boost will probably be 50%. Have to remember that. But, well, depending on the number of times you can counter, remember that counter you got hit first. You buff your intelligence by 20%. And then you will always count with Twin Goldfish that will scale your attack boost and defense boost, so you take less damage, more damage, you recover VP, and you self-heal around that. There's only one thing you have to remember. Twin Goldfish, when used as a counter, will not have a chance to trigger Cure Fire or Cure Water. It's just explained here. So you only get one back and he once. But, well, by just getting many defense boosts, he would just survive pretty well. So it's an interesting mechanic, and because he gets at least 4 EP per turn, you can use this actually a lot. Skill number 3, Blooming Fireworks Plus. For 10 BP, you have a full AoE attack with heat and shadow damage, and gives surviving allies 1 BP or 2 BP, 50% chance for each volley. This skill has been seen before on Global X Rouge, and he's a very nice character and works similar. Rouge can also chase with single target attacks with either Blooming Fireworks Plus or Everlasting Butterflies. Although those skills are stronger and may give more volley overall, but I have to say that Rouge is still better as a BP battery. But Bertrand can also be used just the same, and both characters can be used on the same party if you want, especially if you are bringing Melissa. Another character that can also use Blooming Fireworks is Rock Bouquet by Inheritance, especially if you are using the newest Rock Bouquet in the game. The one that got released in the anniversary can inherit that from Global X style, and you can amplify. So 3 characters can use this skill right now. It's interesting because it's just the same power as Abaddon Hands, I believe. It's A. And you use 10 BP, but you get at least 1 BP back. That leads to some interesting situations where you can inherit this skill into the UDX Bertrand, so that he gives back BP for surviving allies, so that can use stronger nukes in other turns. That's for farming, but, well, if you want, you can also use this skill for, let's say you are in a fight with multiple enemies, or works on overdrive as well. So it's an interesting kit, but I think he's lacking something. If you want to be a full counter specialist, it will be more interesting to save VP instead of spending between Twin Fish. That can be achieved by inheriting either Wind or by inheriting Frostbite. Those 2 skills are free, so you will not be spending BP. You just have a chance to get BP by chasing with Cure Fire or Cure Water. Remember that those 2 will trigger this part of the passive that recovers and gets BP. Another interesting inheritance is Dominant Blaze. If you want, and you don't need to get the extra attack boost and defense boost, you can use Dominant Blaze to heal. There is a delay here, so he heals a lot. I mean, like 1,500, and then still have a chance to trigger Cure Water or Cure Fire. But, well, it's just so that moment that you feel like you need to guarantee a healing effect. But this Bertrand also gives something to the UDX style. Twin Goldfish can use it for farming just fine, because this Bertrand has a 5 BP gain when he hits a target. Inherit that, leave it on 8 BP, increase the res lock to 16, and you can use that to farm story mode. I believe that this Bertrand will have the power to farm some events as well, because remember, he buffs his own intelligence by 20% and also boosts his damage by 50% on each wave. That means that he can probably farm pretty well by inheritance. Well, I think this kinda sums up the character. He's a very good counter attacker. He can also be used as a full battery by just focusing on blue fireworks. He's going to get some good BP, and he can actually use fireworks every 2 turns on average. And can also be used as a normal damage dealer because the chase attacks will just increase his damage potential. And he buffs intelligence evades, so pretty good. I think he comes pretty close to Global X Rouge, and that's why he's going to receive a Triple S grade as well, by having similar power. Bertrand is the only character of this banner that has a future style so far on JP, and that one is very good. You have a 0 BP skill that this time even heals, is a better inheritance to the current. The second skill is kind of whatever. The third one is a very powerful attack that he buffs himself and then attack 2 times. He also has some very nice skills. He can also counter with dominant plays that heals, and he buffs all his status, gets PP, lots of things, but he's pretty far. Now, getting back to the banner image, is this banner worth summoning for? Yes, I will be giving this banner a gold award, like I said in my preview, because the buffer class is the hardest one in the game. We have 2 buffers of premium levels, and we have Bertrand, a character that has a very nice counter mechanic that does not rely on an active skill, use that passively, and he has very good sustain and can also be used battery. So you will not see a banner where you have a character that can rival Matriarch, one of the best characters in the game, but requires multiple investment. He comes ready and you do not need inheritance. Or Witch's Daughter, that has the best debuff cleans in the game right now, aligned with a very nice all status buff that can rival Narwhal's Daughter, replace, or even work together. So there's lots of value to be found here for both new accounts and veterans. So I already pulled it. We'll keep Bertrand as the only one that I'm missing, but you can stop once you get Melissa and Witch's Daughter. They are the most important. Bertrand is nice and all, but if you got them early, leave him behind, you will not suffer so much. But that's my opinion. What is yours? Please see here in the comments. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please subscribe if you haven't, and if you want to support the channel, there are links on the description. I hope to see you soon. Bye.